See here beta. So just now as Ritika was telling, like this is the sagittal section of female pelvis, where just behind pubic symphysis we have urinary bladder. Behind the urinary bladder we have uterus. Okay, behind the uterus, it is not shown here, we have rectum continuing as anal canal. Okay, so now when you see the uterus, now this is the fallopian tube and ovary. Now see here beta. Now the whole of the, now the presenting part of the uterus are, this is fundus, this is body, and this is cervix. Okay, now inside this you have the uterine cavity, and of course the uterus has three walls. Outermost covering is perimetrium, middle is myometrium, and inner lining is endometrium. Okay, on either side superolaterally it will have the openings of fallopian tube. Okay, then the whole of the uterus is covered by a big fold of peritoneum, which is called as broad ligament. Okay, within the broad ligament you will see fallopian tube, you will also see ovary, then suspensory ligament of ovary, ovarian ligament, ureter, uterine vessels, and ovarian vessels. Lot of fat and lymphatics will be there inside the broad ligament. Okay, the broad ligament is actually forming the false support, it is not the true support. Okay, and the part of the broad ligament which is very close to the uterus, the part of this side also you will have broad ligament, only half of it is shown. So the part of the broad ligament which is close to the uterus, you call it as mesometrium. The part of the broad ligament close to the fallopian tube, as Ritika told us, it is mesosalpinx, that is the fold of peritoneum of fallopian tube. And the fold of peritoneum of ovary is meso-ovarium. That means meso is prefix which is added to represent the peritoneal covering of any visceral organ. Mesometrium for uterus, mesosalpinx for fallopian tube, meso-ovarium for ovary. Hope that is clear, beta.
Yes, mom.
Okay, beta. Now see here. Now when you talk about gross features of uterus, you have to talk like in layman's language it is womb and all. Like dimensions you should write better. It is pyriform in shape, 7.5 centimeters long, 5 centimeters broad, 2.5 centimeters in thickness, and weight is 30 to 40 grams. Okay. Now when you look at the uterus, see this is the pubic symphysis, and immediately this is the sagittal section of female pelvis, behind which you are finding the urinary bladder continuing as urethra. Now when you see the uterus, is it standing straight or bending? It's making an angulation, it is bending over the urinary bladder. So the part of the urinary bladder, like superior surface of the urinary bladder is having the like bend of the uterus, isn't it? So the uterus is bending on itself and making an angle which is called as angle of anteflexion, which is 125 degrees, and the uterus is making an angulation with vagina which is called as angle of anteversion, that is 90 degrees. This angulation itself is acting as a support of uterus. Uterus is not straight but it is bending forwards, so that this type of thing will actually help, not it prevents the prolapse of uterus. Okay, so that uterus is not just leaking outside the vulva, that is the vaginal orifice. Okay, so 125 degrees and 90 degrees angulation is very very important. Okay, then now apart from that, see like we also have cervix, no? So the cervix is like from here till here, whatever area is there, that is all cervix. It is around 3 to 4 centimeters long. The inside opening of cervix is called as internal os, and the outside opening of the cervix is external os. Okay, so the external os is opening in the vagina, and the internal os is opening towards the uterine cavity, that is the endometrium. And this area from the internal os to external os, whatever area is there, you call this passage as cervical canal. Cervical canal. And this cervical canal will have mucosal folds. These mucosal folds will be as though They look as though they are like like folds of tree, like mucosal folds. They appear same like cerebellum, arbor vitae cerebelli. If you remember that word, here we use corresponding term like arbor vitae uteri. Arbor vitae uteri is the word which is used to indicate the mucosal folds of the cervix. Okay, beta. Then, so that is now cervix gets softened, like external os becomes softened during pregnancy and also during menstrual cycles. Before the onset of many of these urine like tests, what we have like HCG urine tests nowadays are popular. The other test which is usually used to confirm pregnancy is softening of cervix. Softening of cervix is generally used by the gynecologists and obstetricians to confirm pregnancy. Okay, and of course, cervix will dilate during the childbirth so as to allow the head of the baby to come out through the vaginal outlet. Okay, it it dilates up to almost 8 to 10 centimeters. So that much of dilatation power this cervix has. So I told you more than what is given here. You just read once. Okay, then then after that we have cervical canal. Also I told you external os, internal os, arbor everything I told you. Then we have ligaments of the uterus. So ligaments of the uterus, what are the various ligaments? Just now we have discussed about broad ligament. I told you this ligament is completely enclosing the uterus and it is thickening in three areas to form mesometrium, mesosalpinx and also mesoovarium. I have told you the content showing them. Then let us see the various ligaments which actually form the supports of uterus. First thing we have is pelvic diaphragm, which is very, very important support. Pelvic diaphragm is made up of the levator ani muscle. The levator ani is further made up of subdivisions of muscles like we have pubococcygeus, iliococcygeus and ischiococcygeus. Like hip bone has three components. If you can remember that, from the components of hip bone, you will see muscle fibers are moving towards coccyx. That makes your remembrance easy. Pubococcygeus, iliococcygeus and ischiococcygeus. Sometimes ischiococcygeus is generally named as just coccygeus. Okay, so those are the three muscles which form pelvic diaphragm, which is the true support, which will not, what are these supports for? They are holding the uterus in position so that uterus is not slipping down and it is not coming out through vaginal orifice. The prolapse is not occurring because of all these supports. From lower down, we have pelvic diaphragm holding it firmly. See, this section has been taken at vagina. That means what? The support is down. Okay, it is serving as a hammock which prevents the prolapse. Now, apart from that, if you observe this picture, this is the transverse section of body wall. This is pubic symphysis area. This is sacrum area. As Ritika told us, anterior to posteriorly, the organs are urinary bladder, then uterus, then rectum anal canal. Section has been taken at the level of urethra, cervix, and rectum. So the supports which are extending from the cervix all around, you can see from the cervix till pubic symphysis, it is pubocervical ligament. Pubocervical. Then from the cervix to the body wall, you call it as transverse cervical ligament, also called as Magenrod's ligament. As you read, you will get these words. From the cervix to the sacrum, behind you have uterosacral ligaments. Okay, this bluish area, whatever we are finding, this is all broad ligament beta, which will be seen both the sides. Okay, the transverse ligament is shown here also, transverse cervical ligament. Okay, this is round ligament. Round ligament of the uterus is one of the remnant what we see in the inguinal canal in case of females. No, spermatic cord in males and round ligament in females. Okay, this is uterosacral ligament. You can see the position all the three now. Pubic symphysis, behind this you have urinary bladder, behind this you have uterus vagina and rectum anal canal. Okay, this is the transverse section of female pelvis. So that is all about gross features beta. Then these are all actually true supports which will hold the uterus in position. Okay, so that prolapse is prevented. Then See, development part I will tell you at the end, beta, because now I don't have embryology textbook. I will download and I will discuss later. Gross features, relations, supports, lymphatic drainage we will discuss. See, lymphatic drainage, there is a very good picture here. Just now I saw. What are the presenting parts I said, Meghana? Presenting parts, fundus, body, cervix.
Cervix.
Yeah, this is internal os area, this is external os area, this is cervical canal area. This is vagina. Actually, cervix will form folds within the vagina, which are called as vaginal fornices. Folds, fornices. Okay? Pockets, they are like. Then see, if you observe this picture, the upper half of the uterus is draining into aortic group of lymph nodes, and in the upper part you will see few lower area of the upper part is also draining into superficial inguinal group of lymph nodes. Okay, and the lower part of the uterus is draining along with cervix area, it is draining into external iliac group of lymph nodes. Then external os area is draining both into internal iliac and also sacral group of lymph nodes. Okay, beta. So next question we have is knee joint. The other questions are, as I scroll, if I get these questions, I will discuss them. Histology of pancreas, lesser sac, Turner syndrome, diaphragm, coronary sinus, perineal body, karyotype, sinuses of pericardium, development of urinary bladder, and descent of testis. Okay. Then, so let us scroll back. Lower limb questions I will take at a time, and then I will just discuss whatever question comes into picture now. Mm, whichever comes. Can you tell me about histology of pancreas meanwhile? Urinary bladder development has been asked, right? In case development is discussed here, I will show you the diagrams. Anybody remembers the histology of pancreas, beta? Ritika? See here, beta. See, one of
Ma'am, perineal body, is it about the 10 muscles, ma'am?
yeah, very good. It is all about 10 muscles, which is also acting as one of the supports of uterus, perineal body. Okay. So perineal body, it has come for short notes, beta, 3 marks. It may be also a Viva question. What are the muscles which form perineal body? So perineal body is interlacing. See, this whole area, if you observe, this is perineum. Suppose if you observe this area, in case of female, this is perineum. That means if you, this is like coccyx area, and this is, here you have like ischiopubic ramus. Okay, and this is pubic symphysis area. Okay, then here you have sacrotuberous ligament. This complete diamond shaped area, whatever we have, is perineum. So in the perineum we have certain openings in female, 3 openings. One is urethral opening, then we have vaginal opening, and then we have the anal orifice. Okay, so if you do layer wise dissection, once you remove the skin, you will come across certain muscles. See, this is the like perineal body region. The anterior division of perineum is urogenital triangle, posterior division is anal triangle. Okay, now once you remove stepwise skin, as Meghana is trying to recollect, we come across 10 muscles interlacing point. That's what is perineal body. Now let us see what are those. We have 2 superficial transversus perineae. Okay, then we have 2 deep transversus perineae. Okay, then we have 2 bulbospongiose, 6, isn't it? Then we have 2 levator ani muscles, isn't it? And then we have external anal sphincter. Okay, beta? External anal sphincter. So these are the muscles which form the perineal body. Okay, you should list out these muscles. This will give you 3 marks. Okay, then Ritika, can you tell me about diaphragm beta, because there is a question diaphragm also. Till I scroll for that answer.
Uh, it has three openings, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Okay, but I will tell. So diaphragm is a partition which is seen between the thorax and abdomen. Okay, as Ritika is telling, it has three openings. Before that, we should know, because it's a muscle between the thorax and abdomen, separating the thorax and abdomen. And it's a muscle, we should know the origin and insertion first. If question comes like thoraco-abdominal diaphragm, we should write its origin, its insertion, its nerve supply, its action, and its openings. Okay, beta? It's a vague question. He didn't specify anything. He just gave it for 5 marks. So if it is for 5 marks, it's better you write under these headings. Now, what are its origins? See here, this is the anterior end. So this anterior end, what is the bone we have here in the midline in the thoracic cavity? Sternum. So the lower part of the sternum, we have xiphoid process. So posterior aspect of the xiphoid process, we will have the fibers of diaphragm taking its origin. Okay, these are actually called as sternal fibers, which are arising from the posterior aspect of xiphoid process. And these are costal fibers, which are actually arising from the lower six ribs. Lower six ribs. Okay, then we also have like right and left crus. Okay, right crus is actually extending from L1, L2, L3, and left one is L1, L2.
L1,
Okay,
L2.
L1, L2. And this is medial arcuate ligament, and this is lateral arcuate ligament. Okay, the medial one is this, lateral one is this. So when you talk about medial arcuate ligament, it is actually arising from the lateral aspect of the body of first lumbar vertebra, and then it is getting inserted to the tip of the transverse process of the first lumbar vertebra. Then lateral arcuate ligament from the tip of the transverse process of the first lumbar vertebra to the last rib. Okay, it goes like this. Okay, so these are the medial arcuate ligament and lateral arcuate ligament. Okay, then so this in midline area, you call it as median arcuate ligament. Median arcuate ligament. Now, when the muscle fibers are arising from the sternum, from the lower six ribs, and also from the lumbar vertebrae, you will see all are radiating towards the center, no? As though it is sunlight, isn't it? Radiating towards center, the place of insertion, which is called as central tendon of diaphragm, which is given in green color. Central tendon is the point of insertion. It is trilobar. That means as though it has three lobes, one pointing towards the xiphoid process, one on the right side, one on the left side. Okay. Then, as Ritika was telling us, it has three openings. What are those? You have a code to remember: IOA 8, 10, 12. Okay, I stands for
18.
inferior vena cava opening, which opens at the level of 8th thoracic vertebra. O stands for esophagus, which opens at the level of 10th thoracic vertebra. A stands for aortic opening, which is for at the level of 12th thoracic vertebra. So inferior vena cava opening also has passage for right phrenic nerve. Esophageal opening also has opening for left and right vagus, and it also has like branches of left gastric artery, esophageal branch, and is like aortic opening also carrying the passage for azygous vein and thoracic duct. Okay, so that is all about openings. And when you just look at these arcuate ligaments, just below this you will see subcostal vessels and nerves. And on right side and left side of this right and left crura of the diaphragm, you have crura is plural, right crus and left crus together we can call crura. Okay, so we also find sympathetic chain very closely associated with this. Okay, for 5 marks this much in explanation is enough, beta. You just read once, you will easily understand. Okay, nerve supply comes from phrenic nerve, you write. Phrenic is uh, actually here major opening stable is also given. Action, it has so many actions. It is the chief muscle of inspiration, for expulsive acts, isn't it? For micturition, defecation, vomiting, laughing, whatnot. So many functions it has, isn't it? So blood supply, We have phrenic blood vessels, no, phrenic arteries. Superior and inferior phrenic arteries you can write. Okay, beta? So that is all about thoracoabdominal diaphragm. Mm. Next question we have from here is lesser sac. Okay, pancreas histology and lesser sac. Ritika, do you remember beta anything? Because at least tell me the position of lesser sac beta. Because in recent classes only I told. Not even 3 to 4 weeks back, I remember. Do you remember beta? Now see here beta, now pancreas histology. See, we know pancreas is both exocrine gland and endocrine gland. Okay, so when you talk about exocrine gland, it has all acini. Okay, so all these acini are serous acini, purely serous acini. Why do we have serous acini? Because we know pancreas is releasing pancreatic juice which is rich in enzymes. Okay, between that we will have intralobular ducts, interlobar ducts and all. Okay, that is exocrine part. Apart from exocrine part, we also have endocrine part, which is nothing but collection of cells, which is islets of Langerhans. Okay, where we will have alpha cells, beta cells and delta cells. We know beta cells is releasing insulin, alpha cells, glucagon and delta cells, somatostatin. Apart from that, we may have many other cells also, whose function is not much known. Okay, beta? So that is about histology of pancreas. Okay, then what is peritoneum, beta? There is one chapter in our abdomen, peritoneum, isn't it? It's a protective covering what we see around all visceral organs, isn't it? So usually it is double layered, and region wise it has got separate names. Can you name the fold of peritoneum covering the stomach? Peritoneal covering of stomach, Meghana, Ritika?
Momentum.
Very good, beta. Very good. If it is from greater curvature, you call it as greater omentum. From lesser curvature, you call it as lesser omentum. Very good. So you are to the point. So area in front of the greater and lesser omenta is actually greater sac. And area behind the stomach is lesser sac. I'll show you with diagrams, you will understand better. Do you remember there is a communication between greater and lesser sac? There is a hole which connects the greater sac with lesser sac. Very important 3 marks
It is
question.
not any foramen, ma'am.
Yes, beta.
Is it known as an
Which foramen?
Epiploid.
epiploid?
Excellent.
Epiploid.
Yeah.
Epiploic foramen. Do you also remember other name of it? It will be something like your Viva. That's why I'm asking. Foramen of Winslow. Very good. You remember some. I'm happy. Just a minute, beta. Okay, beta. Now see here. Now we will see these peritoneal folds. With the that page is missing here. Maybe, yeah, I am looking for this page only. See, peritoneum is nothing but the protective covering which we see covering the visceral organs. And you see, I just, as we discussed, I told you it has 2 layers, no? So like outer layer is parietal layer and the layer which is close to the visceral organ is called as visceral layer, parietal layer and visceral layer. Now, this is the peritoneal reflection. This is liver and this is stomach. And as Meghana told us, this is actually lesser omentum and this is greater omentum. Okay. Now, the area in front of the lesser omentum and greater omentum is actually called as greater sac. And the area behind the lesser omentum and greater omentum, whatever has been shown in pink color is actually lesser sac. Okay, the area behind the lesser omentum, stomach and the greater omentum, this whole area which has been shown in pink color is nothing but the lesser sac. Okay, that is. Now, lesser sac will have certain boundaries, and as you said, like there is a small opening connecting the greater sac and lesser sac. That hole is called as foramen of Winslow, also called
Of
as
Winslow.
epiploic foramen. Yes, beta. Very good. Epiploic foramen or foramen of Winslow. Okay. Now, if you just take a section at the level of liver, in front, whatever we have, actually will have greater sac, and whatever we see behind area will be lesser sac. In front will be greater sac. See, this area in front, this in front area is greater sac and behind area is lesser sac. Okay, then so in order to just understand, once you understand this, then you will have, see, subdivisions of lesser sac. See, lesser sac, you need to understand peritoneum thoroughly, then only you will be able to talk something about this better. See, lesser sac is also called as omental bursa. It's a peritoneal cavity behind the stomach. And just now you have seen liver, behind the caudate lobe of the liver. It is closed all around except for one area. What is that? You have discussed epiploic foramen, also called as foramen of Winslow. Now, anteriorly, what does it have? It has covering that caudate lobe and caudate process of liver, posterior layer of lesser omentum, peritoneum covering posterior surface of stomach. You need to keep that page open for you to understand all these things. Then second layer of greater omentum. In front of the pink area, you have all these structures better. In behind the pink area, you will see third layer that forms the posterior relations, posterior boundary. Third layer of greater omentum. Then peritoneum covering antero superior surface of transverse colon, upper layer of transverse mesocolon, then peritoneum covering anterior surface of body of pancreas. Okay, so like that all relations are told here. You just read once, then you will have certain like folds also. Okay, what are the various folds you have? See, the downward and forward course of common hepatic artery, that means from the liver you will have this common hepatic artery which raises one sickle shaped fold which is called as right gastropancreatic fold. Okay, then from left side you will have left gastric artery, there you will have left gastropancreatic fold. Okay, two folds which divide the lesser sac into superior and inferior recess. Okay, this is one recess, superior recess, and this is another recess. Here we will have one artery and here we will have another artery. Between these two arteries, the folds are superior and inferior recess. That is nothing but the common hepatic artery and left gastric artery. Okay, then so superior recess of lesser sac, exactly where does it lie? It lies behind the lesser omentum and liver. Okay, so then inferior recess, it lies behind stomach within the greater omentum. So suppose this area we have pancreas, if you remember, within the C fold of duodenum we have pancreas, and tail of pancreas will have spleen. So this extension will be called as splenic recess. And of course, this is the opening between greater and lesser sac, which is called as epiploic foramen. Okay, so read once, you will understand better. Then any more questions we have better here? Histology of pancreas, lesser sac, perineal body, sinuses of pericardium, lower limb. Okay, the rest of the questions are from lower limb better. Now let's go to lower limb. So do you remember anything about knee joint, Ritika? What type of joint is knee joint? It's a hinge type, no? Hinge variety of synovial joint. What are the bones which are participating in the formation of knee joint? Are you there, Ritika?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, what are the bones? Femur, tibia,
Uh,
isn't it? Patella.
Patella. Yes.
So that is, see, lower end of the femur and upper part of the tibia and patella. These are the three bones which are participating in the formation of knee joint. Okay, it's the largest, most complex joint of the body. Okay, then so what type of joint it is? It is of course synovial joint of hinge variety. Okay, now like we have two condyles no of the femur, and one actually there is joints between condyles of femur and tibia, and one saddle joint between femur and patella. Okay, so then we also have menisci. As we proceed, I will tell you. So the articulating surface, what are the bones? Condyles of femur, patella and tibia. Fibula is not given here, you please remember. Though ligaments are attached to the fibula, but bone is not participating in the formation of joint. Now let us see what are the various ligaments it has. Now once you look into this picture, now see here, wherever you find fibula, you should consider it as lateral side of the joint. Wherever you find tibia, you should consider it as medial side. Okay, that means this is medial condyle, this is lateral condyle, this is tibia and this is fibula. Like any other joint, the very first thing always we should remember is about joint capsule. Okay, so the outermost covering we have here, which is actually extending from the margins of these condyles anteriorly and posteriorly. Lower down, it is attached to the margins of the condyles of the tibia. Okay, that is the joint capsule, which is completely enclosing the bones. Okay, inside the joint capsule, we will have synovial membrane, which is concerned with the formation of synovial fluid, which fills the synovial cavity. That means synovial fluid will be filling inside the joint cavity. Okay. Now, over the capsule, whatever thickenings are there, those are the ligaments. So, what are the various ligaments we have? Now, when you start from the tibia, we have tibial collateral ligament. That means from this, what is this medial epicondyle of the femur? The most prominent part of the medial condyle is medial epicondyle. From the medial epicondyle to the shaft, upper end of the shaft of the tibia, this ligament is the tibial collateral ligament, also called as medial collateral ligament. Check what word is given. Okay, tibial collateral ligament. You can see it is splitting into two slips. This is the superficial slip and this is the deep slip. Superficial slip, over which we have the muscles attached, are gyrobes, sartorius, gracilis and semitendinosus. Between superficial and deep slips, we have semimembranosus and the genicular vessels and nerves, inferior medial genicular vessels and nerves. Okay, then laterally we have fibular collateral ligament from the lateral epicondyle of the femur to the head of the fibula. Okay, and deep to this we have inferior lateral genicular vessels and nerves. Okay, beta. Then after this, if you observe between the joint, there is a fibrocartilaginous disc which is called as meniscus. Okay, this is the meniscus. On the medial side, we have medial meniscus, and on the lateral side, we have lateral meniscus, which divides the joint cavity into the upper half and the lower half. Okay, and of course, these surfaces of the tibia and femur are covered with hyaline cartilage that is always present in any joint. Okay, participating bones will have the attachment of the hyaline cartilage. Our